On Larry King Now, Oscar-nominated filmmaker Morgan Spurlock.
It's important for me to have people who watch my work make up their own mind. Like, I don't want to tell you what to think. You know, I don't want to hector to you and browbeat you and say, and you better listen to me and believe what I say. You know, you can pull out your phone and you literally have a supercomputer in your hand that can get you any news story around the world. But what's happened is the Twitterification of news. Long-form investigative journalism has gone the way of the dodo.
But doesn't that mean you learn less?
Absolutely. You know, there was a time when we used to put scientists and astronauts on the covers of magazines, and now it's reality show stars. These are the people that you want to read about. You ask a kid in school, what do you want to be when you grow up, and they say, I want to be famous.
Do the Kardashians call paparazzi and tell them where they're going?
Yes, they do. Isn't that crazy?
Plus,
I called my mom, and my mom's like, oh, honey, there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity. And I'm like, Mom, that's a line I walk every day.
all next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. We're in New York and we're shooting today at the Paramount Hotel. We welcome to Larry King Now Morgan Spurlock. Morgan is an Oscar-nominated filmmaker and humorist. He's responsible for films like Supersize Me, Freakonomics, Palm Wonderful Presents The Greatest Movie Ever Sold, and One Direction. This is Us. His latest project, Inside Man, gives viewers an inside look at diverse spheres of American life. It's now in its second year. It airs Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern on CNN. He also just inked a landmark deal with the Associated Press, which gives him access to its library of news archives for achievement. Tell me about that.
Yeah,
What is that?
It's an incredible thing. So the AP is now giving us access to all of their archives. You know, so we have
Forever archives.
Yeah, for as far back as it goes to develop for film, television, digital. So it is such like a treasure trove of historical information, of incredible stories, and so what we want to do is turn those into as many movies, TV shows, digital properties as we can.
Did you go to them with this idea?
We went to them with the idea.
They bought it right away?
But we had to sell them a little bit, but they were. But once we talked about it, they were very excited.
So give me an idea. The first show will be what?
Well, we don't know yet. Right now, we're sifting through the millions and millions of stories, just looking for the ones that are going to make the most sense.
So you're going to take them and make them television shows.
That's right.
Or wouldn't they be print stories about things that there have been many, many shows about already?
Or some
shows about Lincoln and this. Right?
That's right. Or there'll be great stories that people just may not have seen. You know, like something that was just like this little amazing piece that everybody forgot about.
Which interests people like you.
That's exactly right.
Tell me about Inside Man. How did that come about?
It came about, we went and met with CNN about doing a movie there, about doing a film project, and they were doing, starting to fund some original movies, some original docs, and as we started talking about documentaries, they said, what about a series? If you were going to do a TV series, what would it be? And this was an idea we had for a while where, I would go into different issues in America, kind of take you inside the problem, explain it from the inside out so you have a better understanding of how things work. We pitched that in the room and they said yes, and like literally 6 weeks later, we were in pre-production. It was incredible.
What made you a documentarian?
I think that it wasn't like I was a kid growing up. Like, I don't know many documentarians that when they're 6-year-olds are growing up saying, "I can't wait to make documentaries." I was going to see, Star Wars and Jaws and E.T. like every other kid my age, and I wanted to make scripted films. But once I went to film school, got into my 20s, made some short docs, and then after I got the idea for Supersize Me and made that, it just changed my life forever. And I was like, I felt so personally, I felt the film to be so rewarding for me as an individual. Like I got so much out of just making it, the way that I felt, the exploration, the discovery of the story. Right? And that was about me gaining a tremendous amount of weight, kind of going on the standard American diet, eating a ton of fast food over the course of 30 days. But what that film, the way that film affected people affected me and my outlook on the world. And so it made me kind of change my direction.
When you think of documentaries, you think of two things. One, they're very valuable, they're very important. And two, they don't make a profit.
That's right. They don't make a lot of money. That's right.
Why not make commercial films?
So you sound like my mom. You said
the desire is to be, I want to be poor, I want to be a documentarian.
I want to be poor forever.
Well, there were famous documentaries.
No, there are. It's like
David Wolper.
Yeah, David Wolper, Michael Moore. He's done all right. That guy's done okay. Alex Gibney's done very well. I think that to actually be able to make a career out of making documentaries is difficult. And I think the one thing that we did rather than just making documentary films, we started making television. You know, television is an actual business, a much better business than just making, you know, documentary features.
What makes a good doc?
I think that the best docs are ones that kind of explore a topic in a way or expose it to you in a way that you hadn't seen before.
Has a viewpoint?
I don't think they all have to have a viewpoint. I think the one thing that we've really tried to pride ourselves on, and what I try to pride myself on, is kind of giving you both sides of a story and letting you make up your own mind. You know, I very much like people to come in having an idea about a situation and then having that point of view shift.
So your opinion is not important?
I think you need to have an opinion as a filmmaker. I think ultimately you have to have your own.
I never had an opinion as a broadcaster. I thought the guest should have the opinion.
And I agree with that. And I think what we want to do is I want to create an argument for you so that you can formulate your own opinion at the end of the piece. And I think Inside Man does a great job of doing that.
You did one on life extension, right?
We did an incredible show about life extension.
What'd you learn?
Well, I learned how unhealthy I was at the time. They took blood tests. They looked at my DNA. They looked at my chromosomes, and they basically said, "You need to take better care of yourself." Because what I did this DNA testing where, you know, through 23andMe, where they told me the things that I was susceptible to: type 2 diabetes, Crohn's disease. And so the doctor said, if you want to live longer, like if you really want to reach the singularity, that's the big thing now. The singularity, Ray Kurzweil, brilliant guy, predicts the singularity will happen in 2045.
Meaning?
And that means that is the day that technology and biology will converge. So if you can live to be to 2045, which means I'd be 75, then for every year you live, technology will get you another 2 years, which is an incredible thing to think about.
How did I make it to 80?
Because
Heart attack, type 2. Bypass surgery, prostate cancer, and I'm 80 and I feel good.
You got the secret right there.
What is the secret?
Well, I think
I'm the object. My father died of a heart attack at 46.
I think part of also what it is happiness. I think that there is a tremendous amount of life. But look how happy you are. Look how happy you are. But because for me, it's like I get a tremendous amount of pleasure from my work, and that's the one thing that the doctor and I spoke about. Yeah. And if you don't have that, then you will be miserable for a long time.
What do you think of cryogenics? I want to be frozen.
I'm excited about the idea.
What's the argument against it?
Yeah, it's like if you can do it, if you can afford it, why not take the chance? Like there was a doctor that we met with who now, Peter Tala, who's based out of Wake Forest. One of the amazing things they're doing now is they're printing organs. So I basically had them harvest my stem cells. So my stem cells are being stored in North Dakota now. So in a few years, like if I have liver failure, kidney failure, if I need a new heart, they can take these stem cells, print a brand new heart for me in a 3D printer, like they make, you know, toys out of now, put it in my body, it'll work, and then I'll go on my merry way.
Do you think you're a little nuts?
A little bit. Yeah.
Do you think you have to be to do what you do?
I think you have to be. I think that to work in this business, period, for as long as you have, and the fact that I still love it, you have to be a little crazy.
It beats work, though.
It beats work. As my dad tells me every day, it beats digging a ditch.
Up next, Morgan's decision, one, to not change his name, and to join my former home, CNN. Stay with us. We're back with Morgan Spurlock. He hosts Inside Man on CNN. He does a lot of everything. What made you go to CNN? The idea of pitching them on filming shows, because in the past you would not think CNN is the place for that.
And I think that they wanted to get to a point where they weren't just kind of doing 24-hour news anymore. They wanted to try and find some things that would follow in your footsteps. You know, that's like we had big shoes to fill. You know, over there. Big shoes. We had big shoes to fill. And so one of the things they said is what if we started making, you know, documentary programming? And so they did a deal with Anthony Bourdain and myself to come in and try and just
You're the two now, right?
We're the two. Like our shows are the number 1 and number 2 shows on the network right now. It's exciting.
As an independent kind of guy, though,
yeah,
why would you want to work for Suits?
For the man.
CNN has Suits.
I'm working for the man. Yeah.
The man,
well,
yeah. But up there in the tower.
That's right. I think if you're given the freedom, you know, just as you were given the freedom and you were there, if somebody says do what you do and do it well, then that's a great position to be in. And you know, we don't get a ton of notes from them. If they have comments on something, they're usually very thoughtful. You know, they don't tell us what kind of show to make, and I think that's where we wanted to be, and I think that's what they want. They want to find some people who have kind of a real voice and vision of what they want to accomplish and let them run with it.
Do you have opinion of their unlimited cover of Malaysia, Malaysian Airlines, which has to be one of the funniest? It's become funny.
I think Jeff's got the plane at his house. I think that's
I think you know who's on that plane? Jimmy Hoffa's on that. Judge Crater's on it.
That's right.
What do you make of that? Did they overdo that?
I think that the one thing that CNN has always, and what people continue to go to CNN for, is breaking news. And I think when they recognize a breaking news story, they're like, this is our thing. Let's focus in on this.
But did they stay too long at the fair?
Yeah, maybe a little bit too long. Maybe a little bit too long. I think the fair maybe left town and they were still wandering around the fairgrounds.
The only problem with that story, Morgan, was the only thing we've learned in 100 weeks is it made a left turn.
It made a left turn.
That's all we know.
That's right.
We know nothing else.
No, it turned left and that was it.
How do you see journalism today with technology, globalism? Are we better off today? Are we better served?
I think we have better access to information. You have access to information at your fingertips. I mean, that's the exciting thing. You know, you can pull out your phone and you literally have a supercomputer in your hand that can get you any news story around the world. But what's happened is the Twitterification of news. Long-form investigative journalism has gone the way of the dodo. Long stories are gone. Like everything is, like the idea of like speaking in 140 characters, now stories are broken down to almost that same type of taste length.
But doesn't that mean you learn less?
Absolutely, and I think that's the problem. You know, the front lines of the world, you know, the Datelines, the 60 Minutes, like those places that do longer form investigative journalism are just getting smaller and smaller and fewer.
So we want to learn less, or we want to eat it up, spit it out?
Well, no. Well, I think it's a combination of both. I think that we are learning less. I think that's why the value of a show like ours on a CNN, if you can have a show that can do what those shows did, but do it in a way that can also bring in a new generation of viewers. Because I think that's what they started to realize, that there was this target audience that was starting to grow much older, and they wanted to make sure they could get back into a real 18 to 34 demographic.
Why did you decide to be a paparazzi?
Because for me, the whole idea of our obsession with fame, I'm blown away by. You know, there was a time when we used to put scientists and astronauts on the covers of magazines, and now it's reality show stars. These are the people that you want to read about. You ask a kid in school, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they say, I want to be famous.
But there's something, I live in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
A car of tourists goes by my house every 6 minutes. I timed it one day. Every 6 minutes. They take pictures of the house.
Yeah.
Pictures of my kids. And if I'm in front of the house, who cares about where I live?
Yeah.
Why paparazzis are so unimportantly important?
I think, yeah, completely. I think.
What was it like
but
to
I think
be one?
we've created the value for them though by our obsession with the magazines, by the magazines kind of putting a bounty on people's heads. Like one of the things that we did is while I was making the show, like Lamar Odom was in the middle of his kind of alleged drug scandal. You know, did he smoke crack? Is he on the outs with Chloe? What's going to happen to their relationship? And so the guy who ran the photo agency said, if you can get a photo of this guy, that will be the biggest thing you could get. And so basically I went trying to track this guy down all over LA, everywhere they said he'd been. And you start to feel dirty after a while. Like as you're chasing somebody at this lowest point in their life, you start to feel a bit like a scumbag, you know, that you're trying to capitalize on somebody's pain and suffering. But we've created this business around getting people at their saddest, worst moments.
Now, as you get more famous,
yeah,
and are seen more,
nobody cares about this guy.
Yeah, you'll become.
Nobody
oh,
cares.
you will. They'll figure out a way to care about you.
No,
right?
they're never.
Or
gonna
do
care.
something nuts.
I'm boring. Like, you know, I'm not going out and getting all cracked out and taking my clothes off and running naked down the street. You know, I'm not caught with like 17 prostitutes. You know, it's like this is like.
What are they like, the paparazzi?
What you realize is that some of them there are guys who are solid guys, who have wives and kids, who have a code of ethics.
They got a job to do.
They got a job to do, but they also have a code of ethics. Like they're not going to go out and take a picture of someone's kid because they don't want somebody taking a picture of their kid.
You know, in Europe, you can't take a picture.
Yeah.
In Britain, you
when they're
take
trying
a
to push,
picture of the kid.
and they're trying to
You
push that in
lose your
California
license.
right now. They're trying to do the
Alec
same thing.
Baldwin wants it to happen.
Yeah, Alec Baldwin, Jennifer Garner, Halle Berry, like they're pushing for that. And you know,
why do they take pictures of kids? Why?
Because it's like there's value in it. Like
I think it's cruel.
It's cruel, and the kids didn't sign up for it. And the argument from the paparazzis as well. You know, they're as a parent, as a famous parent, like this is what you signed up for. And you know, as a parent with my kid, like I wouldn't want somebody taking pictures of my kid. I signed up for it. He didn't.
Do the Kardashians call paparazzi and tell them where they're going?
Yes, they do. Isn't that crazy? So if they know where they're going to land, or they know when they're going to a restaurant, they will call in advance. And not only will they call in advance, here's the even crazier thing. So when I was taking pictures, I was taking them for a photo agency. And as a photographer, you know, you take your photos, you give them to an agency, the agency uploads them, you know, for the magazines to look through, and then they buy them from those agencies. The Kardashians have an account at all those agencies. So whenever a photographer that they call takes pictures, and they go to the agency, when they get sold, photographer gets a kick, they get a kick.
I wonder what I knew Robert Kardashian real well during the Simpson trial.
Yeah.
I wonder what he'd think of all of this.
I think he would think it's nuts.
Nuts.
I think he'd think it's crazy.
Up next, Morgan on Uber boy band One Direction and his Uber documentary, Supersize Me. We'll talk about that when we come back. We're back with Morgan Spurlock. Why didn't you change your name? Morgan Spurlock.
We got
20 years ago, they changed your name.
20, like, believe me, when I first went to Hollywood, when I was trying to get into the University of Southern California, somebody suggested I change my name, and it was one of those, like, I hated, especially my middle name. You see, you got to give the whole name. My whole name is Morgan Valentine Spurlock. So, like, so as a kid, like, there was nothing worse than having a middle name Valentine. And so I was like, I'm going to change my name. But then once I started working in the business, I was like, I'm proud of that name. I'm going to own that.
I asked Soupy Sales once what his real name was, and he said Joan Crawford. I thought that was funny. All right, tell me about One Direction documentary. That seemed apart from what your normal course of study
Yeah, but
is.
it was one of those opportunities where, you know, when a movie studio calls you up and says, we're going to give you the chance to make a movie about one of the biggest bands in the world, with a bigger budget than you'll ever have in your life as a documentary filmmaker, working with equipment and shooting in 3D, doing things that never happen as a doc filmmaker, it's one of those opportunities you can't say no to.
Were your loyal fans disappointed that you would go straight?
I think there were people who were upset. There's still people who are upset that I made that film, but you know, it's like we made the highest grossing, you know, doc of last year. You know, the film.
How successful was it?
The film was, I mean, it was huge. The movie made, theatrically, it made like $70 million worldwide. You know, so
yeah. Did you like them?
They're great kids. Yeah, I mean, they're really, they got their heads screwed on straight. I mean, I think that the attention they get, the praise they get, I mean, and they get slagged constantly, you know, just for kind of being put together by Simon Cowell on a talent show. But each one of those kids has talent, and they're good kids.
Supersize Me put you on the map, right?
Completely. And that was 10 years ago.
How'd you come up with that idea?
I was sitting on my mom's couch on Thanksgiving, very apropos. You know, I was like stuffed to the gills in kind of a tryptophan haze.
Were you trim at the time?
I was trim. I was weighed about 185. This is the first time I've weighed less than I did before I made Supersize Me. First time. See, the Futurism episode worked.
So what did you do?
So I was watching a news story about at that time there were these two girls that were suing McDonald's that said, we're fat, we're sick, and it's your fault. And I thought it was the craziest thing ever. I was like, how could you sue a food company that you buy food from, that you eat, and blame them for it? And then a spokesperson of McDonald's comes on and says, listen, you can't link our food to these girls being sick. You can't link our food to these girls being obese. Our food's healthy, it's nutritious, it's good for you. And I was like, well, if it was that good for me, then shouldn't I be able to eat for like 30 days straight with no side effects? And I went, oh, that's it. That's a movie. And like literally 6 weeks later, we were shooting that film. It was crazy.
Did you pre-sell it or do it on the spec?
I had a show that was on MTV right before that called I Bet You Will. This game show where we'd go out and bet people to do silly things for money. And when they canceled that show, we had about 50 grand in the bank. And I said, and we owned all our own cameras, we owned all the computers to edit on. And I said, why don't we just take this money and make a movie? So we completely paid for it. I paid for it out of my pocket. Cost $65,000 to make.
What did you do? Ate at McDonald's?
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 30 days straight. I gained like 27 pounds over the course of the month. My liver filled with fat. You know, my cholesterol skyrocketed. My blood pressure was off the charts. My liver got so filled with fat that I was en route to giving myself what's called non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, which is basically like cirrhosis of the liver with fat.
And they were filming you every day?
Every day. Yeah.
Did you enjoy eating while you were eating?
The first couple days, absolutely. Because it's like every kid's fantasy. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to get to eat this every day. It's going to be so great. By like day 3, day 4, it's like you're kind of tired of the menu. By day 9, I'd gone through everything on the menu once, and I was going back for my second trip because I was eating everything.
One wondered why you didn't stop, you know, because you were affecting your health.
Yeah,
you had to know that.
And the doctors, like all the doctors were like, you need to stop. We don't know what's going on. My brother, I tell you the biggest reason why I didn't stop was I called my brother Craig. My older brothers are beacons of wisdom. You know, you call them up, and you know, as a kid,
you hate him.
That's right, exactly. As a kid growing up, my brother, you know, my oldest brother Craig's like, no, go ahead, jump off the roof. It'll be funny. You know, things like they give you good advice. And so after calling the doctors, my doctor's like, you got to stop. I called other doctor friends, like, you have to stop. I called my mom. My mom's like, oh, honey, there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity. And I'm like, Mom, that's a line I walk every day. And she's like, you got to call your brother. And so I called Craig. And I said, everybody's telling me I have to stop doing this. And he goes, Morgan, people eat this shit their whole lives. You really think it's going to kill you in 9 more days? Come on. And I was like, there you go. I'm going to keep going.
Did McDonald's sue you?
They didn't. They were so smart in how they handled it. They basically ignored it completely in the United States. Very smart. They were like, he's crazy. He didn't know what he's talking about. You know, no, we don't ever tell anyone they should eat it every day or even 3 times a day. We say it's part of a balanced diet.
What do you mean when you call your profession gateway documentaries?
I think that, Because so many people talk about docs being medicine and that they're not good for you. And when people say that, I say, well, here, let me give you some docs to watch. And so I give them what I call gateway docs. Like Supersize Me is a gateway doc. It's one that's going to get you in the door. You're going to watch it, you're going to like it. And then there's great gateway docs like Anvil, the story of Anvil, Heavy Metal Parking Lot, Hands on a Hard Body, American Movie. These are movies.
Wasn't Michael Moore's the classic?
Michael Moore
General Motors.
Yeah, like Roger and Me, great gateway doc. Like films when you watch, you're like, oh my gosh, that was actually really funny. And then I'll give you some that are a little more serious.
So, but the good ones, they generate, right? They create emotion.
They create emotion.
They move you.
They absolutely, as good movies do.
And 16-year-olds will watch a doc. 18-year-olds.
I remember when Supersize Me came out. I called a friend of mine who lived in Dallas, Texas. Or he called me, and he was out to the movies on a Friday night. And Supersize Me in a movie theater is in a theater with 3 theaters, and there was Troy with Brad Pitt, Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman, and Supersize Me. And he goes, these are the movies that are playing at the Cinemaplex. And I was like, and is Supersize Me empty? And he's like, no, it's packed. It's amazing. And he goes, as the film came out, as the film was over, these 16-year-old kids, 14, it was packed with young kids that came to see this film. All these like 13, 14-year-old kids coming out of the movie going, oh my gosh, that was so disgusting when he threw up out of the car window. And can you believe 33% of the kids are going to have diabetes if we don't change the way we eat? It was remarkable.
When we come back, Morgan shares his list of must-see documentaries in our final segment, plus social media questions for Morgan Spurlock after this. We're back with Morgan Spurlock. What is 7 Deadly Sins?
Yeah, June 19th is the premiere date of the show. I grew up, I loved Alfred Hitchcock as a kid. Like Alfred Hitchcock, Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, like those really weird, twisted shows. And I always wanted to create like an Alfred Hitchcock Presents style show, but all docs, like nonfiction stories. And so we're making that right now with Showtime. It's called 7 Deadly Sins. Each episode is about one of the 7 deadly sins: gluttony, wrath, sloth, envy. It's fantastic. And so each one of those is all true stories, real people living in the world today, as dark and as weird as you could imagine. And I do the wraparounds on the show, and it's fantastic. It's creepy.
You do the wraparound, someone's out doing it?
Yeah, so I do the Hitchcockian moments that kind of tie everything together.
Do you walk onto the screen with an image?
Exactly, a very thin image, a much thinner image.
You have to gain some weight, though.
That's right.
To do it. What's the 5 best docs ever?
Oh my gosh, the 5 best docs ever. That's, let me think. I tell you what, I loved Searching for Sugar Man, the film that came out last year. I also loved The Imposter. One of my favorite doc of all time is a movie called Brother's Keeper that was directed by Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky, which is about these 3 brothers upstate, and one of them ends up dead, and the trial that comes out after that where it gets dark, really dark. I love Gimme Shelter, one of the best movies ever made by the Maisels. And I'm a huge Errol Morris fan, so...
Just had him on.
Isn't he great? Oh, what a...
Just did the one about the 2 Secretary of Defenses back to back.
Yeah, like Fog of War is a spectacular film. Like that movie, it's like you want to treat us on how you interview someone in a documentary on how you get like information out. Is like watch that film because it is a.
Do you want to direct feature films?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, we've got a film that I've been attached to now for about 4 years that we're developing with Appian Way. It's Leonardo DiCaprio's company. And it's a very Aaron Brockovich-ish, very kind of insider-ish story, something that's I think is perfect for me. It's like once you make a successful film, everybody's like, oh my gosh, you should do a feature. Like when Supersize Me came out, I got every comedy script in Hollywood being sent to me. Like they were like, here's a new Deuce Bigalow movie. You got to make this movie. We want to do a Revenge of the Nerds remake. You got to make this movie. It's like, and I got sent things that I never wanted to make.
I guess you and Michael Moore are the only rare documentarians who become famous themselves. People won't recognize Errol Morris walking down the street.
No, and but Errol Morris is one of the great. Like Errol Morris, Steve James, Barbara Koppel, Alex Gibney.
But no one would recognize them.
Nobody would recognize them. Yeah.
We have some social media questions.
Okay.
Scuzzlebutt SD tweets: how do you stay the only popular documentary maker who is balanced? So many use their agenda and tricks.
For me, it goes back to what we were talking about. I think it's important for me to have people who watch my work make up their own mind. Like, I don't want to tell you what to think. I don't want to hector to you and browbeat you and say, and you better listen to me and believe what I say. That's just not, I want
Michael Moore does that well, though.
Michael does it well. Michael does it really well. But I think you have to come in knowing what you're going to get. And I think that there's a lot of people who go into his films, it's like who are rah-rah, they're on the team. And I want to get people who aren't on the team to come in and kind of formulate an opinion.
Real Estate Rossi via Twitter. How tough is it to get a feature made these days? A ton of artists are running to the small screen.
It's tough, and what you see is, but the quality of what's happening on television is incredible. Look how good TV is now. Look at True Detective. Look at Game of Thrones. Like you look at House of Cards. Like there are such good players now, and it's not shunned anymore. You know, when you have big stars like Kevin Spacey and Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson, like going to television.
But they're not being done by the big cable networks. Some are, some aren't.
That's right. You know, you have like it's the HBOs, the Netflix that are making really good stuff. It's going to be exciting. The internet, that's right. So, but it's tough. It's hard to get movies made. If you look at what's happened in the film business, there's very low budget movies, like the Paranormal Activities of the world that are made for like $5 million. And you'll have some that'll go up to like 10 or 12 that are kind of like the Academy movies, like the Dallas Buyers Club. Dallas Buyers Club is a good example. Great movie. But that's like a $10 to $15 million movie, you know? And then there's nothing. Then there's a dearth to like, you know, 100 million. And then it's like tentpole movies. So this whole middle ground of like, big comedies that used to be made are gone, or you know, or love, or you know, or romantic comedies.
Asin Unique via Instagram wants to know if there were any long-term effects on your health from the McDonald's thing.
The longest I think was what people don't realize is when you gain weight, you know, when you lose it, all those fat cells that are in your body don't go away. Your body's just now filled with little skinny fat cells that are just waiting for you to eat, just waiting for you to
waiting for cancer.
They're waiting for cancer, waiting for ice cream. And so what would happen is I would eat and I would overeat and I could gain 5-10 pounds in a weekend like that. So I mean so my weight was, I had like yo-yo weight for, you know, a good 10 years.
At Tweetbark asks, have you eaten at McDonald's since filming the documentary?
Not since March 2nd, 2003.
Mr. Louis Salazar via Instagram. How do you feel about John Cessna, the Iowa high school science teacher who lost 37 pounds eating only at McDonald's?
Yeah, well, he also was eating, you know, less than 2,000 calories a day, and he was exercising 45 minutes. Oh. You know, when you eat less.
So he went at the McDonald's, had a hamburger, and left.
That's right. Yeah, or he was eating a salad and having water. You know, he's like, most Americans don't eat less and exercise more. Most of us do the opposite.
Coxbarra Instagram. Do you have any advice for aspiring documentary makers?
What I tell every filmmaker, you know, when they say, you know, what should I do? And I think the biggest thing, one, is you have to be true to you. You have to be true to your voice. You have to be true to your vision. You can't try and make work that everybody else is making because that's what you think is going to sell or that's what you think you're going to make. Like, you have to really believe in your storytelling and what you want to make. And you can't give up. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like, I went to film school with amazingly talented people who are now amazingly talented real estate brokers or, you know, bankers. Yeah. You know, somewhere along the way, you give up on kind of your dream and your passion. And I tell people, if this is what you want to do, you got to commit.
Continue. Good luck, Morgan.
Great meeting. Great meeting you. Pleasure.
Thanks to my guest, Morgan Spurlock. Inside Man, Sundays, 10 p.m. Eastern on CNN. And remember, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things. We'll see you next time.